Welcome back. With many staying home as the battle against the coronavirus continues, cell service and the promise of new 5G internet speed is gaining a lot of attention. In tonight's special Full Circle report, I-Team investigator Kylie McGivern began looking into the issue earlier this year. She found as towers go up, it's creating tension among cell phone companies, cities, and homeowners.
People talk about this as the fourth industrial revolution.
5G technology, boasting internet connections of less than a second.
5G is going to be the most important network of the 21st century.
So what does building that network look like? For Treasure Island, homeowner Kevin Nichols says, a mess.
There was no knowledge of it to all the owners here by the city or Verizon.
This pole, called a small cell, is not 5G. It's actually 4G. But Verizon says poles like this are laying the foundation for 5G. Small cells can be mounted to existing utility poles and street lamps, or stand alone like this one.
We don't want this tower physically here.
Nichols says residents at these condos received no notice and had no say before the pole went up right in front of their homes.
It was up within a day and a half. So we actually came around, put a car here in front, thinking that we were going to block it.
We were there when homeowners were finally able to speak up at a city commission meeting after the tower was already installed.
That's unbelievable.
We got no choice.
It's not fair.
But why did no one know? Back in 2018, the FCC put rules in place to limit the ability of city leaders to regulate these poles, saying it could prohibit deployment of 5G. Now, the Florida League of Cities is suing the state in an ongoing legal fight to take back local control.
And there always has been a tension between national communications policies and local zoning.
We wanted to talk with an expert on 5G, and Tom Wheeler is just the guy. Wheeler was chairman of the FCC under President Barack Obama. Now he's with the Brookings Institute.
Evolution of any of the G's.
And 5G promises to support new technology like virtual reality and self-driving cars. Right now, 5G is being tested in cities across the country. For Verizon, that includes New York City, Los Angeles, Houston, and in order for everyone to be on 5G, we're going to need a lot more of those small cells. Back in Treasure Island, homeowners worry about the health impact. Concerns brought to this Verizon rep.
Take our technology and mold it.
Till we know just what this health hazard is, this radiation, I think we should definitely put a hold on it.
I have a 2.5-year-old son. I'm very concerned about his health.
Verizon said and told the I-Team it does not share the locations of our network infrastructure for security reasons. In this email Verizon sent to the city, the company says their equipment poses no known health risks. Meanwhile, the World Health Organization just announced it is conducting a health risk assessment from exposure to 5G. Nichols says he understands you can't stop progress, but worries about what it could mean for his community.
We're not standing in your way of moving forward technologically, but this location is unacceptable.
Again, everything in this story took place before social distancing orders due to coronavirus. Now, residents in Treasure Island, they say they understand the need for faster mobile internet, especially during a crisis, but say they want local communities to be included in the process. In Tampa, Kylie McGivern, ABC Action News.
You would hardly notice it from the street, but this city light post on Forest Avenue is outfitted with the latest in small cell wireless broadband technology. The cone at the top and the boxes at the sides are some of the pieces that promise to dramatically increase cell phone and computer data speeds throughout San Jose.
This is the largest deployment of small cells in any city in the country, more than 4,000 small cells, an investment of more than $500 million in our city, and critically important.
Mayor Sam Liccardo announced agreements with Verizon, AT&T, and Mobility to begin a 5-year deployment of 4,200 small cell sites. Small cells are more powerful but have a shorter range than the big towers, so there will have to be more of them. They promise broadband speeds up to 100 times faster than big cell towers without all the ugly wires, and will handle the expected crush of traffic in the future.
By moving the data off of the macro cell towers and onto these very small cells, we're able
able to accommodate that explosion as a result of our phones, as a result of connected devices, the Internet of Things.
San Jose's agreement lets providers use its light towers, but also includes a $24 million investment into a digital inclusion fund to make sure lower-income neighborhoods are not left behind in a digital divide.
Well, can you hear me now? For people in many of Omaha's older neighborhoods, the answer has been no.
Cell phone reception just isn't that good, but there may be a solution. John Chapman continues our coverage live now from City Hall. John, what have you learned?
Well, City Council members believe the answer to the problem is a microcell antenna about the size of a cookie sheet that will be placed on light poles. The antennas would be set up in neighborhoods east of...
Has done is they've come up with some of these small cell towers that they can put on street lights or kind of our light poles, and they can put multiple cell towers all around to provide greater coverage and expand that data service to people basically east of 72nd.
37 antennas will be installed in the old market at first, and then later on they will add additional antennas to other neighborhoods east of 72nd Street. The City Council will vote on this proposal in 2 weeks. Verizon will handle all of the costs. This will not cost taxpayers any money at all. Reporting live with photographer Giovanni.
I used to like to lie in bed at night and look out at the sky.
But now, this is Yolanta Benall's view.
There you go. A bedroom I had to turn into a tomb.
Benall, who lives in Windsor Terrace, says the glare from new LED street lamps on our block is so intense, she hung blackout curtains.
So that we could sleep at night.
It's an annoyance many people around the tri-state area have expressed as more and more towns and municipalities switch from orange sodium lights to longer-lasting blue LEDs. But this glare may actually be the least of our concerns.
There has not been consideration of the human health impacts, and that's what I very strongly object to.
Professor Richard Stevens with the University of Connecticut has spent more than 30 years studying the health effects of artificial lights, including LEDs.
There is no question too bright light, particularly blue, high short wavelength light in the evening, it has potent effects on our physiology.
In particular, he says, study after study shows it severely suppresses the production of melatonin, a much-needed hormone.
Increasing the risk of diabetes, obesity, depression.
And potentially certain cancers. A study from Harvard found a greater risk of breast cancer in women who live in neighborhoods that have higher level of outdoor lighting during the night.
I think we don't know the individual environment.
But
make sure you get enough sleep.
The American Medical Association is now encouraging communities to minimize blue lighting by using the lowest emission of blue light possible. If you use LED light bulbs in your home, experts recommending dimming them in the evening.
In Cincinnati and across the country.
The new LED lights produce more light at half the cost of the old street lights, but there's growing concern these lights may be creating hazards on the roadway. Dwayne Pullman has the exclusive Local 12 investigation.
As night falls on the tri-state, a new brighter, whiter light is beginning to shine. Light-emitting diodes, or LEDs, are at the center of these new street lights. The LEDs produce more light using half the electricity of those old familiar high-pressure sodium lights. The lower-cost bright light combo is why LEDs are now popping up on our roads and streets, byways and highways, even in a tunnel many of you drive through. According to the Ohio Department of Transportation, approximately 1,100 LEDs now make up the 46,000 streetlights on state roads and highways. But the nation's largest group of physicians, the American Medical Association, is now warning about a potential darker side to these LED lights.
It's not a good thing, bottom line, right?
That's correct. AMA President Dr. Andrew Gurman agreed to talk with me from Altoona, Pennsylvania. Dr. Gurman believes the light emitted by these diodes can be downright hazardous. According to this official AMA report, many of the new streetlights could be considered unshielded LED lighting, which could be creating a road hazard.
Does that worry you just from the ability to drive your car in and out of these lights at night?
Well, yes, it does. Dr. Gurman and the AMA say the potential hazard on the roads is caused by both the brightness and color of the new LED lights. Most of the LED streetlights emit 4,000 kelvins, or 4,000 K.
Now, the 4,000 K lights are the ones that you've seen on some car headlights coming at you.
And just like that car coming at you, the AMA report states the same amount of light overhead can be very blue and very blinding.
They are about 29% blue light, which you can't see, but that light rattles around inside your eyeballs, particularly as you get older. And that blue light can be very harmful. It causes glare.
The AMA calls it disability glare, an impairment that the report says causes a veil of illuminance, which leads to worse vision than if the light never existed at all. In other words, in some cases with LED streetlights, the AMA report states you'd be better off driving in the dark.
Those are strong words.
Well, that's what's in the report.
That glare is apparent if you drive through the L.E.D, Ohio's longest vehicle tunnel. Workers are installing new LED lights on the side walls, and as you can see, they produce a lot of glare.
Does that concern you?
Well, the way you describe it certainly concerns me.
After I brought the concerns about the glare of those new lights in the L.E.D tunnel, an ODOT spokesperson wrote to me stating there is an ongoing conversation about what kind of lights will now be installed in the tunnel. There are other potential health effects of the new LED lighting in the AMA report too, including a disruption of sleep quality. While that sounds trivial, the AMA says it's serious because the bright blue-filled lights affect the production of a compound we all need to fall asleep.
It turns out that exposure to large amounts of blue light interferes with melatonin production.
According to the AMA, the new LED lamp is at least 5 times more powerful than high-pressure sodium lights at influencing melatonin suppression. And while it's still being studied, the report states some evidence supports a long-term increase in the risk for cancer, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and obesity from chronic sleep disruption associated with exposure to brighter light sources in the evening. And that risk rises when you drive under LED lights.
The effect seems to last long after you park the car or pull into the garage.
Or live next to the bright lights.
Some of them have to make accommodations like putting blackout curtains and taking other measures to prevent that light from getting into their houses because they were noticing that they were having difficulty sleeping as well.
According to Duke Energy, the highest concentration of LED lighting in the Cincinnati area is here at the University of Cincinnati, where 800 LED lights were installed at the request of the city, where students study and live.
Certainly, we're aware of the report. We have our own internal team that's looking at it and certainly seeing if there are other steps that we need to take with how we're using LEDs on our system.
And according to that AMA report, the new streetlights are even causing confusion for nocturnal animals, killing insects, birds, and in some cases, stopping fish from migrating. The U.S. Department of Energy, which pushed for these low-energy lights, is disputing the AMA report, saying there's nothing inherently different about the light emitted by the LEDs. Now, there is good news here. The AMA says fixing the problem is fairly simple. The doctors recommend reducing that 4,000 K bulb down to 3,000 K. You can find out much more about this issue. Read the full AMA report for yourself. Just click on my story, Glowing Danger, on local12.com. Those links are right inside. I'm Dwayne Pullman, Local 12 News.
Turn off, or this one will, not all of them do, and then at 5:30 in the morning it'll come back on. Well, anyway, in a second this light will go off, and when it does, we'll have a short time while there it goes. It is now linking to the street lights outside, which are currently on because it's 9:25 at night and it's been dark now for a couple of hours. And once this light comes on, it'll stay on because it doesn't matter how much light you put on the sensor, this light will not turn off, as it is G5 smart radio controlled, Wi-Fi controlled street light. I'm not exactly sure exactly how they work. There is some information, but basically there's a controller, and sometimes you see them fitted on the street lights. It's like a box with two aerials, and they also fit on near substation as well. And basically it controls the lights for a certain area. And once you connect all the lights up, all these sensors, or each light, there we go, come back on, and they all work together. Well, anyway, this light now will stay on with the street lights outside. We've also noticed that around about 10 o'clock at night, the street lights also dim, obviously to save power because everybody's in.